rounds of the Parker NZ Rally Champs, and we've had 2 different winners from 2 different classes and 2 different manufacturers. Round 1 at Otago, and it was all looking good for the Group A Mitsubishis until on the penultimate stage, Borden blew a diff and Hawkswood stopped to change a tyre. So Chris West scored the first victory of 2004 in his production class Subaru. Round 2 in Southland was dominated by the weather, the snow and ice turning the rally into a gamble. But this time it all paid off for Andrew Hawkswood. He scores his first win for Mitsubishi.
That's awesome, you know, I think that's one of the hardest stages I've ever done, you know. I didn't want to overcook it, but, you know, you can't relax, so, yeah, it was just awesome.
So to the third round, set in the tourist mecca of Rotorua. Geysers and mud pools may be what brings the tourists here, but for the rally fans and the drivers, it's the challenge of the Motu stages on day 1 and the mighty roads of the Kaingaroa Pine Forests on day 2. Yes, it's round 3 of the Parker NZ New Zealand Rally Championship, the Hella Battery Town Rally of Rotorua. Perfect conditions tonight here for the ceremonial start of the Hella Battery Town Rally of Rotorua, round 3 of the Parker NZ New Zealand Rally Championship. I'm Clint Brown, glad you could join us, team on 3 Sport, for the full action highlights coming up in the next hour for what could be the most important round of the championship. On the stage at the moment we have Andrew Hawkswood, who leads the whole series in one of the Group A cars, but because of a controversial FIA ruling favouring the Group N production cars, because this round is also the third round of the Asia Pacific Series, the Group N cars will start at the front of the field while Hawkswood is down the back. He's part of the grumpy Group A drivers who could lose the lead this year to the faster guys like Chris West and Richard Mason, his main rivals, who are at the front of the field.
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed about the way that it's worked out. You know, I'm sure there must have been a better solution to it, but you know, I'm not going to let it worry me too much. We'll just try and get out there and do the best we can with what we've got.
Okay, you're a little bit disappointed. What would be the disadvantage of starting at 30?
Well, the road, I mean, the roads in Rotorua, they're not like, you know, elsewhere in the country. They chop up really badly. You know, they don't have a very good base, and, you know, the more cars that go on it, the slower it gets.
For Mark Tappert, this was a chance to prove himself in an international arena and to gather as many New Zealand Championship points as possible.
I want to be in that top 3 and at the front of Group N at every rally to win the championship. It's all uphill from here, but I'm looking forward to this one.
But Subaru's nimble handling and presses should have the upper hand in the afternoon stages on day 1.
Yeah, I think I've got the right tyres. I managed to save some from Invercargill, and yeah, I think the biggest thing is get the temperature into the tyres, and in such a cold place such as Motu, and yeah, obviously Subaru's better suited for the tighter, twistier stuff. So you know, we're obviously looking to make some sort of gain, if you know, if anything, in there, and obviously you know, bring out Saturday's stages that are going to be a lot faster.
The Subaru handles those corners so well, it's bound to be really good, you know, but Group N will maybe struggle a little bit, although we've got it going pretty good.
Early start on day 1, Friday morning, east of Rotorua. Stage 1, Maniatutu, very fast country road. Stage 2 was cancelled because of logging operations. Stage 3, Manawahe, features the famous spectator spot, Helicopter Corner. A service in Opotiki before tackling the mighty Motu stages in 2 bites. Service in Matawai, then Whakarau and Rakata offer plenty of speed after the tight, twisty Motu. Back to service again, but a long day, made even longer by the 2.5-hour trek back to Rotorua for the overnight rest. Now, while the Group A cars have been disadvantaged by running 30 cars back, Chris West had the prime road position. 7th on the road and leading the field in the Parker NZ cars. And on a frosty morning, the Asia Pacific cars ahead will literally be breaking the ice and clearing the road for him. The Subaru New Zealand team had made changes to the suspension based on data gathered by Subaru Australia in their ARC cars. But the car was too stiff for the conditions. And Westy loses time, finishing the stage 9th in the New Zealand race. Most of the New Zealand drivers are using a pace note system developed in Sweden, printed off data gathered by a car driving through the stages a few weeks before the rally. But Richard Mason and Hamish Fenimore write down their own notes during reconnaissance just a few days before the rally. And it's a far cry from the old days when they used to run blind and the drivers basically guessed what was around the next corner.
100.
And the Mitsubishis are much better on the long, open, fast country roads. First, Mark Tapper took the field apart, not only beating Westy, but also the international drivers, 8 minutes 02.5. Rotorua's Dean Sumner showed his intention to lift his game on his home rally. The team had changed to Pirelli tyres for this event. While they weren't as good as the Michelins on this stage, Sumner was the 4th fastest production car, just 7 seconds behind West. A huge step up for the crew from the ITM Mitsubishi team. But any chance of an early break on the field for these production cars was blown away when the grumpy Group A driver started on the road 45 minutes later. Maybe it was the sweeping effect of the cars in front, maybe the slightly better light conditions, maybe the extra power of the Group A cars. But Andrew Hawkswood took to this road like a man possessed. And despite a few moments, he was 4 seconds faster than Tapper. His time, sensational, 7 minutes 58.3. Not to be outdone and desperate to score maximum points here, Todd Borden also had no problem beating Tapper. In fact, he won the stage 1 second faster than Hawkswood.
150.
However, they were the only Group A cars to better the production leaders' times. Neil Allport coming in 3 seconds behind Mason. And just 1 second in front of Glenn Smith. But Smith's rally would end just 1 stage later with a blown gearbox. Coming up, more wild roadside antics, and the mighty Motu causes a real splash. Now, most people know this stage for the fast burst at Helicopter Corner, and there it goes. But the reality is Manawahe is tight, twisty with a sandy base which cuts up after just a few cars. Take a look on board with Chris West's Subaru. 7th car on the road, and already you can see a driving line is forming. So surely the Group A cars would lose out here big time. Westy stops the clock on this stage with a 17:36.6. As the rally fans know, the Mitsubishis are better suited to the open, flowing country roads. So Mark Tapper did well here to be just 0.02 seconds faster than West. But Richard Mason seemed to have the best package for the morning. Because this rally uses electronic triggers at the start and end of each stage, times are measured down to 1/100th of a second. Luckily for Mason, as he was just 0.6 seconds faster than Tapper and the fastest production car on the stage.
4 left minus, narrows, 4 right plus, 40. 4 right opens.
Amazing though, it was Hawkswood and Borden who topped the timesheets. Despite the road breaking up, Borden somehow has enough pace to get through the stage with a time of 17:20.2. And that's 15 seconds faster than Mason, who was the fastest production car. Hawkswood another 7 seconds behind Borden, but having handling problems. First a half spin here, and then later in the stage a big moment when the car slides wide by a bridge.
Short 4 right minus. Into short 4 left minus. 3 right tightens to 2. Sorry, this one. 3 left opens. 2 right.
And it was just a 12-second split between 6th and 10th place. Neil Allport having his best rally of the season despite brake problems. Lewis Scott in 7th was having a close battle with the rookie Sam Murray. Scott had his Group A Mitsubishi just 0.3 of a second ahead of Murray on the stage and just 4.3 seconds ahead of him overall. Murray was backing up after a great performance in the Rally of South in which he led briefly. Out of the battle for 10th, Austin Jones, the one-man band from Pakuranga, and Malcolm Stewart were also carrying on the Subi-Mitzi battle. Jones in the Waiuku Car Spares Subaru was just 0.9 of a second faster on the stage than Stewart, a veteran of over 25 years of rallying in New Zealand. And the battle in the Kiwi 2 class was heating up with rookie Shane Watkin putting putting the pressure on the championship leaders when he posted a 9 minutes 09.2 in stage 1. But Kane Barry responded by winning stage 3 and actually led the class at the break in Ōpōtiki. And Dave Strong was finding the little wee Honda Jazz just a little bit twitchy and a bit nervous when they hit the high speeds. So Todd Borden had the early lead by just 8 seconds from Hawkswood, Tapper the best production car in third, ahead of Mason and West. Then the other Group A cars of Allport, Scott and the rookie Sam Murray making up the top 10. First service of the day was a brief stop at the east coast town of Ōpōtiki, and for the drivers, well, a chance to look ahead to one of the world's most famous and challenging rally stages.
Oh, definitely, yeah. No, we went out there and tried our best in the first two, and we're just going to suck it and see. I mean, I've never done well on Motu, so I'll just be happy to get out the other end of this, to be honest.
Yeah, having said that, you're about eight seconds behind Todd, so not a major charge there for you through there.
Not to Rakata and Whakareo, no.
Straight and tidy is the game. The game all weekend for us to get points and keep it tidy and put the pressure on Andrew really. And if him and I both finish at the end, I know we will be at the front.
The battle had gone down to the Group A drivers, but Mark Tapper's strong performance showed that the production cars could have the upper hand on these next stages.
Yeah, we were real happy. Made a correct tyre choice. I think everyone else went for a narrower tyre and I went for a 215, and it seemed to have worked pretty well. I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, sure, the Lancers are flying, and I'm sure that Todd and Andrew will be using their Group A power to the fullest advantage. So in the past I probably would have said that the Motu would have really suited this sort of car, but in doing our recce we've noticed that the road is more there seems to be more room on the road, so more room to move around, which maybe is better for the Lancers as opposed to the Subaru's suit very, very tight and hard to move around, and they've used the nimbleness to the best there.
Okay, you're now going on to Motu, which will probably suit the car. You're about 30 seconds down on them, so you're going to charge?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can't afford to wait around anymore and give them another 30 seconds. So we're going to make some adjustments here to what we think it should be, and obviously have a go and try and make that 30 seconds up in Motu.
Neil Allport was 6, just 10 seconds behind Westy after a frustrating brake problem.
It's not been great, to be honest. I was at first stage, we had a little bit of a brake balance problem, a bit much rear, and so we mucked about with that, got that right, so we thought the time was okay considering. But the second stage in Manohei had a really bad balance problem again, and just to the point where we actually lost the brakes. And then also too, the intercom, Robert's helmet started to play up, and so he's under the plug and lost his notes, so we had 5 kilometres of finding all that again and getting going. So it wasn't particularly good. In fact, it was really bad.
But as the 3-time champion prepared to leave, his crew discovered the brake master cylinder had jammed. The brake problem was solved, but the remedy took 2 minutes longer than the time service allowance, so he left with a 20-second penalty. And after the break, the trail of destruction from the mighty Motu. The flat, super fast start of the mighty Motu stage, right near the beginning, but of course later on, when they get higher into the hills, that's when it becomes mountain goat country. That's when it becomes, of course, the car breaker and the rally maker. But then, of course, that's why the Motu is world famous. Now, the Asia-Pacific drivers will be the first through the Motu stage. Former champ Karamjit Singh made the most of the good road conditions, putting in a major push through both stages to take the lead in the APRC round. Jeff Argyle was actually the first New Zealand competitor on the road at number 3, but he's only competing in the APRC and can't score points in the New Zealand Championships this year. As it was, he had a miserable start with a puncture in Manawahe, but fought back in the Motu. Chris West Car 7 was the first of the New Zealand cars. The Subaru New Zealand team had made changes to the suspension in an effort to get more drivability out of the car. Despite its reputation as tight and twisty, the Motu actually starts quite fast and open, up to the bridge. But just a few Ks on, the corners start coming thick and fast, maybe too fast. road is not too bad. Hasn't broken up or got too slippery. As West nears the summit of Motu 1, where once again the road opens up, as you can see from Helicam. And it's pretty much the same way right through to the finish of the stage and the start of Motu 2, where the road runs through farmland before reaching the famous ford. And the good news is, it's not too deep this year. But Westie's still wary of the damage suffered by Solberg in the WRC recently. And he takes a bit of a cautious approach through the big water splash. Now the road tightens up. Really hard mountain goat country. Inconsistent too, because the mud seeps through to the gravel and it changes quickly and starts to break up. While Westie did a pretty good time at his new Subaru, moving him up to 4th overall, the older Subaru of Richard Mason has a broader power range than Westie's perkier 2003 car. It's able to hold the gears higher and drag the car through the corners, keeping more momentum and speed. Check out the suspension working hard on the faster farm roads. Mason clocks a record-breaking 14 minutes 32.9 on Motu 1 and moves to 3rd overall, and it's no different on Motu 2.
Plus, the deep water ford, keep right.
It's an impressive performance from the young Masterton driver. Breaking the Motu stage records will hopefully gain recognition from the international teams here to compete in the APRC. It's the same again, 24 minutes 35.5, a new record on Motu 2, a combined stage after 46 kilometres of 39 minutes and 8 seconds. And he takes the outright rally lead in all divisions.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
Mark Tapper knew he would lose time on this stage. It was just a matter of how much he could control the loss. His time through Motu 1 was 14 minutes 46, about 14 seconds slower than Mason, over 19 kilometres. And on Motu 2, the tighter, twistier part of the section, he loses more time. By the time the Mitzies emerge from the rugged bush at the end of the stage, he's 46 seconds slower than Mason at 25 minutes 21.6 and down to 5th place behind West. So what about those grumpy Group A drivers, facing these roads after 30 cars have cut them up? Surely this is where the arrogant FIA decision to make them run at the back of the field would have a devastating effect on the New Zealand Rally Championship. And Todd Borden, well, he got off to a bit of a bad start right at the start of the Motu. After that minor moment, Todd settled down to pick up the pace. But this is the tighter part of the stage, and as you can see, the road conditions aren't as smooth as they were for the front cars. But they aren't as bad as they might have been.
60. 5 right minus and...
Borden's time was just 0.6 seconds slower than Mason. The disadvantage had been far less than anyone had expected.
And 4 right minus.
But now they're heading towards the really tight, twisty stuff, Motu 2. How much time would they lose here? Because this is where the road really starts to cut it up rough. In the end, he manages to get through with a time of 25 minutes 05.5, 30 seconds slower than Mason.
Into a 7 left minus.
Same story too for Andrew Hawkswood. Fast here through Motu 1, and for a driver with a reputation of being spectacular, bank to bank, it was a very disciplined drive. He was 3rd fastest on Motu 1, just 5 seconds down on Mason, still 2nd overall. But on Motu 2, it's a similar story to Borden. Hawkswood can only manage 6th fastest and slips to 3rd overall. Championship rookie Sam Murray is the fastest of the Group A Subarus, following on from his great performance in round 2 in Southland. He was 5th fastest through Motu 1, just behind Tapper, 14 seconds slower than winner Mason. But on Motu 2, he's faster than both Tapper and Hawkswood, maybe the more nimble Subaru able to take advantage of those tight, twisty road conditions, man, because they love it when it gets tough. Austin Jones made the most of the road conditions too, the Senator's older Subaru, in 7th place on Motu 1. But 2 punctures in Motu 2 would take him out of contention. Allport had his brakes working again. At the end of Motu 2, he was in 7th place, but still over 2 minutes behind the leader. Dean Sumner had a shaky start and a lucky escape on Motu 1. But by the time he'd finished Motu 2, he'd overtaken Malcolm Stewart for 8th place and was the 4th production car. But Stewart was only 2 seconds behind the young Rotorua driver. Tom Pritchard, the Welsh flyer from Dunedin, was 10th, ahead of the 2 female drivers. Emma Gilmore going great guns in 11th. And she had a 40-second advantage over Deborah Kibble. Now the Kiwi 2 cars are light and nimble, perfect for these tight, twisty roads. Dave Strong really finding a rhythm here.
Don't go wide. You're starting to struggle a bit here. 5 left minus.
He had overheating brakes in the early stages, but thankfully that problem had been remedied in service before the stage.
3 left, 1 right.
But it's the Nissan of the Winger Subaru mechanic Kane Barry that is the fastest of the K2 cars through Motu 1. But check this out. By the end of Motu 2, the field is decimated when first Shane Watkins slips off the road. Then Kane Barry is stranded with a blind gearbox. That leaves Strong in the lead from Jason West and his Suzuki. And 18-year-old student Sarah Randall in 3rd. So after the record breaker in the mighty Motu, Richard Mason edges ahead of Borden and Hawkswood. Tapper the big loser as Westy starts his climb up the table. Then the drivers headed towards service at Matawai to lick their wounds. More bad news for Tapper and the team. They discover bits of gear in the gearbox oil.
It was pretty tidy, but just the car, I don't think it suited the car at all. And we got a little bit of a gearbox problem. Gonna knock some teeth off one of the gears. I don't know what gear it is, so it's just a matter now of just keep on cruising through. There's not enough time to change the gearbox and see what happens. Try and nurse it. Hopefully it'll last.
Yeah, having said that, you've seen those little bits in your hand there. It must be a little bit daunting for you.
Yeah, well, it's not something you plan on, and don't know what I can do about it really, but we'll just keep on going and hopefully it'll hold together.
Coming up, more destruction on the rugged rally of Rotorua. The next 2 stages, Whakarau and Rakata, rank a close second behind the Motu as famed car breakers. Whakarau's signature is the Fords, shallow concrete-based stream crossings which dot the stage. Richard Mason's on a mission, throwing the little Subaru at the corners as he knows the Mitzies can haul him in on the next stage, the fast one at Rakata. But that simple mistake, just clipping the bridge, has ripped his rally apart. And leaves him stranded on the roadside.
I just misjudged a bridge entry and hit the inside of the bridge on a narrow one and pulled the wheel off, so unfortunate.
So Todd Borden would have known as he passed Mason's stranded car that he now has the rally lead back. And with a potentially super fast Rakata stage to come, things were looking good for the Hibiscus Coast roading contractor.
Minus and 8 left, 8 right into a 5 left minus.
But he too is trying hard as the conditions start to break up because they're so far back down the field.
And very long 5 left opens.
And getting enough grip is proving to be a real challenge in the Flying Evo. And just when he was heading towards the end of the stage, tragically his rally would end. Disaster, the car looks to be stranded.
Okay, Todd, looks like the day's turned pear-shaped for you.
Yeah, once again, no, just got caught and it was a 4 right. Just got caught in the mud and just travelled across the other side of the road, and she rolled actually, and back on the wheels again, and fixed it. We're 10 minutes down. Yeah.
You say you fixed the car. Did you have to do some mechanical repairs on the side of the road?
Yeah, it actually the strut punched right through the top of the guard, so hopped out and had a look at what it was, and pulled it apart, and got very burnt hands, and we managed to fix it, keep on going, yeah. But it was a bit of a mad pain there for a while. But, you know, it's what we pay for. Like I say, being back down there, it's a bit tougher, you know. You get into these corners, you think you're coming into the open, fast stuff, and you get it, and then next minute you're halfway around a corner and caught in the mud and just straight across the road, and that's what happened. So
3 left, 30.
But bad news for Borden becomes good news for Andrew Hawkswood. In stage 6, Rakata, he'd really turned up the pace.
30.
And as the first of the Group A cars on the stage, he's the first to also pass Mason, stranded on the bridge. But also ahead of him, the slowest of the APRC cars.
Long 3 left.
And that would be a production class Honda Civic. He catches the other car 2/3 away through the stage, but thankfully the driver's pulled over. Hawkswood wins the stage. Fuck it out. 24 minutes 06.
Opens to 4-.
And it's more of the same through Rakata. Captain Wyatt and Slide using the power of the Group A car, eating up the Ks, and Hawkswood unbothered by the road conditions. And check out the stage end, flat out 500-metre roller coaster. Last year, Bruce Herbert and Rob Ryan hit 217 kilometres an hour.
300. Oh, baby.
He stops the clock at 17 minutes 15.3, but Andrew is more interested in what's his top speed.
205. Turn off the thing, don't let it stall. What do we get? Oh, stop. Speed, Jack, speed. 205, mate. Oh, 208.
Yeah, forget about the stage type. What about the speed? Well, a need for speed for Chris West, another to benefit from the misfortunes of Borden and Mason. After more changes in service, he's second fastest through stage 6, but on stage 7, Rakata, he punches, stopping to change the tyre. Later on, after the rally, he would joke that some of those punctures were actually self-inflicted punctures. Then he had to get out and drive slowly after changing that tyre. They lost 3 minutes and dropped from 2nd to 6th. No such problems for Mark Tapper, though, who emerged from these stages 2nd overall and the leading production car, despite the fact that he was nursing that crippled gearbox. Just in front of him, Sam Murray, who put on a superb drive to move up to 3rd ahead of Neil Allport. Allport seemed to be finding consistency at last in the Group A Evo 6 Mitsubishi. And more good results for Dean Sumner, 7th on stage 6, 5th on stage 7. That moved him up to 5th overall behind Allport.
To finish, easy small press flat 300, to finish 150. After you finish, you got 150 and 8 right.
So after special stage 7, Andrew Hawkswood takes the lead in the Rally of Rotorua. Mark Tapper in 2nd place, 59 seconds behind, is the first of the production cars. Sam Murray rounds out the top 3. Emma Gilmore back in 7th is the first of the women drivers.
OK, Andrew, end of first day, you're actually in front. Must have been a pretty good day for you.
Yeah, I think we've been helped out a little bit by a couple of other people having problems, so yeah, no, it's really surprising, really surprising. I really didn't expect to be in the front at the end of the first day.
OK, Sam, end of the first day, you're 4th overall. Must have been good for you.
Yeah, it was a good day. Certainly the twistier stages, obviously, we liked a bit better. Struggled a little bit with power and Whakarau Rakara, but not as badly as I thought. And yeah, it's been a very good day. Had a few problems this morning with obviously the suspension a bit hard, and tyre wear's been a bit of an issue, but can't complain, certainly.
Mark Tapper's team decided to change his gearbox at the 45-minute end-of-day service. A huge job for the Mitsubishi.
A little bit surprised we did those 2 stages without 3rd gear, and car's still going good other than that. So he's hoping that we'll get this all done and we'll be on the road again in the morning.
They did get the job done with help from mechanics and the MRF Mitsubishi team with the German driver Armin Kremer, but used extra time. So Tapper would start day 2 with a 1 minute 50-second penalty. Dave Strong continued to lead the Kiwi 2 field, increasing his lead over West by the day's end to 53 seconds. And giving us a moment of humour and a lesson for all rally drivers and co-drivers along the way.
And 30, dry 4 left minus. Yeah. Left the window open. 1. Yeah.
Stick around as the action hots up on day 2 of Rally Rotorua. The magnificent pine forests to the east of Rotorua have long been a favourite playground of mountain bikers and, of course, the top New Zealand rally drivers. Day 2 started in Rotorua with a quick service before heading to the Waiotapu forest just along the Taupo Road. Then 3 more stages through the pumicy soft roads of the forest at the base of Mount Tarawera. Now, the big question for the rally fans was, how much would the roads break up and how would it affect the Group A cars down the back of the field? Yes, those grumpy boys, Hawkeswood and Allport. Being production class leader, Tapper was first NZ driver on the road. Made the most of it, a great start, won the stage, 13:38.9. Under the Super Rally rules, Richard Mason could restart day 2 and still score up to 5 bonus points if he was the fastest on the day. He was the second fastest production car, 17 seconds back, with Chris West another 4 seconds back. Dean Sumner had moved ahead of West in his ITM Lancer on the previous afternoon when Westy punctured. Now he was fighting to stay in his best position of a rally all year.
Minus open 350. Mate, you're on the 350. Just keep it smooth, Dean. Keeping the.
It's so slippery.
Yeah, well, everyone's got the same. Keeping the hard spot of the road. Long 4 right plus.
Great recovery and great advice too from co-driver Jeff Kress. It worked. They were the second quickest through the stage, just 5 seconds slower than West. Emma Gilmore had driven her best rally yet, finishing 7th on day 1. Now she charged on to be 23 seconds behind West in the production car battle. Her main competition for the day would come from Tom Pritchard, a greatly improving Grant Barber. And he was having his best rally so far in the Evo 8. And the former production car champion, Deborah Kibble.
Small crest, very long 5 left.
So what about those grumpy Group A drivers? Well, Hawkeswood was the leader and first to follow the production cars on the road. You can see that the road is starting to churn up, creating a situation where the grip is very inconsistent.
30. Slippery in the shade, eh? Yeah.
But in flamboyant style, Hawkeswood is just 3 seconds slower than Tapper and retains the overall lead of the rally. And after his disastrous start to the season, Neil Allport may not have been thinking about challenging for the lead in the New Zealand Rally Championship again, but here he was, just 1 second faster than Hawkeswood and a real chance at the podium. But sadly, Sam Murray's challenge would end right here with a broken gearbox. So now a group of 3 stages around the base of Mount Tarawera before service back at Coverdale. Much to everyone's surprise, it was the Group A cars which once again dominated despite the road conditions. Glenn Smith had retired early on day 1 with the blown gearbox, but was back again on day 2, trying for 5 bonus points. On stage 9, he was the second fastest to Hawkeswood, but on stage 11, he scored his first stage win of the season, 5:36. And that was 6.2 seconds quicker than Hawkeswood. Tyke Borden was climbing back up the leaderboard as well. 7th fastest on 9, then picked up the pace on 10 to be the second quickest. Remember, he only has bonus points from day 1 at Otago, so he desperately needs as many points as possible to stay with any chance in the remaining 3 rounds of the Parker NZ New Zealand Rally Championship.
54.
It was the same for Richard Mason. He clipped the bridge, remember, on stage 6 on day 1. The NZ team repaired the NZ Subaru, only to find a huge surprise around the next corner.
Minus 20.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, man. I just...
A different start point during reconnaissance meant that Hamish Fenimore's pace notes were missing the first corner. And that's an absolute disastrous result.
It didn't start on the right place for the stage.
So they thought that corner was going to be a fast right 6. It ended up being quite a tight right 4. With just too much speed, overpowering straight into the corner, into the trees, ended up being parked on the beach. Andrew Hawkeswood had the rally lead and dominated again over these next 3 stages. While there was no concern for his championship results, he was actually the fastest car in the overall rally field. And he had a narrow margin over the leading car in the Asia Pacific Rally Championship, Karamjit Singh. While the official title of Rotorua Rally would go to one of these production cars, to finish first on the road would take a strong message back to Motorsport New Zealand about the treatment of the Group A cars. And after these stages, he headed towards service at Commodore with a lead of 2 minutes 15 over Neil Allport in the New Zealand Championship, a 57-second lead over Singh. Allport, meanwhile, survived that moment, and he had a 57-second buffer over third-place Mark Tapper, despite puncturing here at the stage end. In fact, Tapper led the production class, and these cars made up the next 8 places, although the gap between Tapper 3rd and Brett Martin here in 10th was 8 minutes and 42 seconds. Chris West had lost touch with Tapper, but his position in the rally would still be good enough to retain 2nd overall in the championship. But he was still frustrated with the car's handling. A few hair-raising moments first on stage 9. Then on stage 10. Meant that he would go to service looking to make yet more changes to the car, while our technicians tried to clean the mud out of that camera. And if that was enough to worry about, Dean Sumner was now just 19 seconds behind and looking for his best result of his rally career so far. The ITM had a simple plan: come back for the first 2 rounds with a solid points base and then let Dean push hard on the rally roads he knows so well around Rotorua. Well, not that well. Emma Gilmore was in her highest championship placing, 6th and looking very confident. Tom Pritchard was 30 seconds back, but had a 2-minute buffer to 8th place Grant Barber. And right behind the cat car, Deborah Kibble, who'd recovered from her stage 8 scare to be 9th. So after special stage 11, it was still the Group A car of Andrew Hawkeswood out in front. Mark Tapper still in control of the production class cars, while Neil Allport was just lurking in the background.
7 right.
Now, Dave Strong had held the Kiwi 2 lead since stage 5.
To a 4 left, doesn't like those big bumps, does it?
But while he'd been faster than second place Jason West on day 1, today he was suffering with the setup of the Honda Jazz. The car was pitching high in the rear on the rough pumicy roads, and in one extreme case, sand is scooped up by the front of the car and dumped through the roof vents.
Whoa, look at the sand. Long 4 left minus.
Strong finishes 12th overall in the rally. First in Kiwi 2, but second Kiwi 2 was Jason West, and this result, along with his consistent finish record so far this season, puts him in the lead of the Kiwi 2 Championship. James Hancock on his rally debut in this class came 3rd, 4 minutes behind West. Emma Gilmore suffered gearbox failure on the penultimate stage, so Deborah Kibble was the first woman across the line in 7th. And Grant Barber had his best result for the year, a 6th. As you can hear, it doesn't sound too good. A podium finish was on offer for Dean Sumner, but the rear diff cried enough on stage 12, and he was only able to crawl to the finish line.
got any more minties?
6 left. No, I got one. 6 left minus 100 to 120. Small crest 50.
Yeah, we're going to have a go at trying to beat Westy, and just off the start line for that 30k stage, second to last stage, there's a bang from the back and the rear diff blew, so we just had front wheel drive. We went as hard as we could, but the centre diff started to burn out, so we've had to back off and just drive through to try and make it to the finish.
Minimum bolts, guys.
Luckily for the Rotorua man, the team changed the diff in time, got him to the finish, and he still scored his best result of the year, 5th overall, 4th production car. Tom Pritchard had his best result too, 4th, and will be unlucky not to get a podium finish by the end of the year. And would you believe it, the battle for the podium places out front had one cruel twist of the tail.
Watch for the punches, eh?
Forget about the punches. This turned out to be absolute disaster for Andrew Hawkswood.
That is a monumental blow-up. Joking me. Better watch it doesn't catch fire, eh, dude?
The rally leader was out with a blown gearbox.
Andrew Hawkswood, you still managed to have a smile on your face.
Yeah, I don't know how. We'd done nothing wrong today. We drove down the middle of the road and come to here, and the gearbox has exploded. So, I don't know what I've got to do.
Chris West finally got the Winger Subaru going on song and won the last 2 stages to claim 3rd overall.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, Clint. We chase our tail all weekend and come into the last 2 stages with the best car we've had all weekend, and. It's unbelievable, but the positives are out of that. We can go into the rest of the championship with what we like, and it's just, we knew it was time. The car's going to do it, and we're happy, very happy.
Mark Tapper was 2nd New Zealand car home and winner of the production class. He also took out 3rd overall in the International Rally Rotorua category, a big step forward for the young Kiwi, who becomes the youngest New Zealand driver to score a podium finish in an FIA International Rally.
Great result for you, mate. Must be very good.
Yeah, it's about time. It's a long time overdue. And hopefully there'll be more to come.
And after 11 years and a lot of soul-searching at the start of the season, Neil Allport claimed victory in round 3 of the Parker NZ New Zealand Championship. He'd had a minute buffer over Tapu when he drove past Hawkswood on stage 12, so it was a case of steady to the end for a relieved Neil Allport.
So what do you think of that, mate? I believe you're first of the Grumpy Group A's.
Yeah, we're first of the Grumpy Group A's, yeah. Like I say, it wasn't the most beautiful stage, but I'll take it. I'm really, really stoked. Unbelievable.
And your co-driver must be relieved. I mean, he's used to winning this rally, though, isn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's no pressure on him. He always does this, and I sort of had a bit something to live up to there, didn't I? I had to sort of produce something.
Yes, after the big crash in Otago, Neil Allport gets his first win in a New Zealand Rally Championship event in 13 years. Rob Ryan, now a 6-time Rotorua Rally winner, 6 in a row, that is. Heartbreak, though, for Andrew Hawkswood. Mark Tapper, relief to finally get on the scoreboard. So although Karamjit Singh was the overall winner for the Rally of Rotorua, the first Kiwi home was taken out by Neil Allport and Rob Ryan, who just knows how to get the best of these boys around those mud pools and geysers. But overall in the championship, Chris West takes the lead with 87 points, followed by Hawkswood and Mason. Jason West takes the lead in the Kiwi 2 Championship, followed by Dave Strong and Sarah Randall moving up to 3rd there. And in the other championship, it's the junior boy from Rotorua, Dean Sumner, with a good advantage as well.